Welcome back to the Space Traveler's Guide to stuff people have already done guides on. Today we are taking a look at Zul'Gurub, one of the Tier 2 heroics from Cataclysm. What you're seeing right here is the first mini-boss encounter, Venomancer. I don't even care what your name is. He basically has two main abilities you have to worry about. The first you saw there, Whispers of Hethys. It is interruptible and should be, otherwise it'll wreck whoever gets targeted by it. The only other thing he really does, he casts poison bolts on the tank. They hurt. Not much you can do about it. Just a word on our group comp here as we run through the gauntlet after picking up the Cauldron buff, and I run ahead and don't let the tank pick up the bugs. We did this with 3 guildies, myself, Shadow Priest, Catlia, Holy Priest, Zoranthus, Affliction Warlock, also a Warrior Pug tank, and a Frost Death Knight Pug. Nothing special about these bugs, as long as you pull them back far enough to not evade bug them. Because then they do things that are convenient, like die. Now we're moving on here to the second mini-boss, Tiki Lord Muloa. Really all he does is his little eye lasers that you see right here, usually channeled on the tank. Every once in a while you'll see it on a ranged DPS if they get a little overzealous with getting started before the tank gets aggro. But other than that, he's just a big dude with 1,000,000 health. And he falls over flat on his tiki face. And now we're moving on here to the second mini-boss, Venomancer Tukalu. He does a nice job of introducing you to another one of the first boss's abilities, Toxic Link. Basically he'll choose 2 random targets except for the tank, and link them together with a little poison beam, and they have to get the hell away from each other so that they don't die. And other than that, he does the same as the first Venomancer. He casts poison bolts on the tank, and he gets heals. And the third and final intro pull here to the first boss, a couple of these Venom Guard dudes. They have 2 main abilities. The first is called Breath of Hethys, and it's basically just a frontal cone ability where they rock the face of whoever's standing in front of them with poison. And then as you can see there, as soon as I move my camera, they also drop these little green pools of death on the ground after they do their breath. Makes life really difficult for the tank and any melee DPS in the group, because there's just a lot of crap going on that you have to pay attention to, and the fact that there's 2 of them. So now we're going to take a look here at the first boss, High Priest Venoxus. He, well, does the 3 abilities we talked about. He's a 3-phase encounter. Phase 1, he sets up the Poison Maze and casts Whispers of Hethys. Should be interrupted, for the same reason it should be interrupted on the Venomancer. He also casts Toxic Link, which you deal with the same. Nothing really special. Main things here, the tank needs to pull him out far enough so melee DPS can get behind him without standing in the poison clouds on the stairs. And after a little while he'll cast Blessing of the Snake God, turn into a big giant snake, start spawning the green pools of death, and he will start using Breath of Hethys, which, again, as soon as he starts casting it, the tank should run through him and, you know, not get wrecked. And so, after a while of beating on him as a snake, he turns back into a troll and begins casting Blood Venom. Basically pick 3 random party members to target and then start just channeling a pulsing AoE thing throughout the arena. Avoid it, it hurts. Then he falls down and becomes exhausted. This is your time for Bloodlust, Time Warp, what have you, if you have it in your group. Because he's just going to sit there for about 20 or 30 seconds and let you give it to him. And then it starts over with phase 1, and he just kind of cycles through this until he falls over and dies. And you can see now we're on our way up the hill heading towards the second boss. There's a couple things that need to be dealt with. Obviously first you need to get up the last hill without getting bludgeoned to death by big fucking rocks. Then you have to deal with this berserking rock thrower, or boulder thrower, whatever he's called. Once he gets pulled either by the tank or by DPS, he quits chucking rocks and he becomes a normal big scary troll with like 2 million health. It does an AoE knockback and a thunderclap type ability. This next trash pull consists of a Gurubashi cauldron mixer, a Zandalari Juggernaut, and a Gurubashi Warmonger. Usually the best way to deal with this is to have your tank pull them when you see the patrol there in the upper right hand corner of the screen, the 2 dudes on raptors. You have your tank pull them, or pull the 3 right in front of us, and then your DPS all runs to that Frost Cauldron to pick up the Frost Cauldron buff and then you do massive amounts of damage to kind of make this pull a little bit shorter and easier. You can see there, a crit will actually, with the Frost Cauldron buff, will actually one-shot these mobs with the exception of the Zandalari Juggernaut, because he automatically goes immune at like 30%, so he can become Super Juggernaut or whatever. And anyway, so you rinse and repeat the Cauldron buff here with the patrol, and then the next pull up here will be 1 Cauldron Mixer and 2 Warmongers, and then we'll get ready to talk about the second boss. And now you see here we're coming up to the second boss, Bloodlord Mandakir. He has a plethora of abilities, not the least of which we'll talk about here in a moment. But on the whole, not complicated. Looks like just your average tank and spank dude riding on a skeletal raptor. But then he uses the first of his abilities, Decapitate, which will one-shot whoever it decides to target, unless it's a paladin that smartly bubbles while he's flying through the air. However, you see the ghosts here, their purpose in life is to resurrect you when he kills you. Saw there the second of his abilities, Devastating Slam. Basically, it's to make your life more difficult when you are trying to kill his mount, Ogon, who will kill the spirits, thus putting a tighter DPS timer on this fight. And as you see here, he will actually res Ogon periodically to try to eliminate spirits, usually shortly after a Decapitate. And the final of his abilities is called Bloodletting. He'll just channel a, well, really nasty pulsing damage over time skill on a random target, except for the tank. And it typically needs to get healed through. And that's really all there is to this fight. He does frenzy at I think it's like 10%. 20%, I apologize. But other than that, yeah, kill him. He still has a chance to drop a raptor mount. I've never actually seen it drop, but I know people that have.